Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live AMA session today. I'm Victoria Bennett from the Crowdfunding Hub, and I'm thrilled to host this deep dive discussion about an exciting opportunity with Sportsman Logistics. Joining us are Neil, the CEO and co-founder, and David, the CFO of Sportsman Logistics. Today, we're diving into how Sportsman Logistics is transforming local business support through innovative inventory and financial solutions. And we'll also discuss why you should consider getting involved before the first crowdfunding campaign closes this Friday at 11:59 p.m. ET. So first off, let me introduce Neil, who has spearheaded the vision for Sportsman Logistics. He brings strong business experience and a passion for building communities. Neil, would you mind sharing a little bit about what inspired you to start Sportsman Logistics?
Well, we learned from our involvement with Ski Cellar Snowboard that small businesses have significant challenges. They're competing with big box stores. They're trying to get local customers involved in their businesses. And like any retail operation, they have a lot of inventory and they typically have a lot of challenges getting financing from banks and from other sources. And we learned sort of firsthand that there, through the challenges that Ski Cellar faces, that we could actually come up with a solution to the financing for small business, especially the retailers that are inventory based. And that's where we see the opportunity.
Okay, great. And then, David, you've been instrumental in sort of shaping some of those financial strategies and the technology that fuel Sportsman Logistics. Could you give us an overview of your role in the company?
For sure. So I've been working with Neil for several years now with various initiatives, and particularly with the Ski Cellar, and kind of watching what the Ski Cellar has gone through, and sitting on the board of kind of a local soccer club and being quite involved in amateur sports in town, and just watching what all the smaller retailers struggle with. We realized that what we were building out for Ski Cellar really applied to a lot of people, and most of the clubs in town prefer to deal with local retailers. They prefer to deal with people that are supporting them in return, right? So you're not dealing with a sport check, you're dealing with the local stores, and really they were underfunded and underfinanced and undersupported, and a lot of what we were doing with the Ski Cellar really applied to all of them. So I was quite excited to kind of help out with the opportunity of bringing some assistance and help to a lot of those stores that I frequent as a customer, and certainly as somebody that's a lot heavily involved in amateur sports. So.
Great. So, both have really interesting experience and background. We've got a very specific question here. I'm going to ask it to you, Neil. And I know it's one that many potential investors are keen to understand too. Can you explain a bit more about how Sportsman Logistics makes money? Could you break down the company's business model and explain the key revenue streams?
Well, the company basically has two revenue streams because it provides two potential services to retail customers. The first is inventory management, and that's really where we can set up a small business that's heavily dependent on inventory, and that's typically retailers, with the system necessary to track all of their inventory from the moment they place an order right through the entire life cycle to the moment they've sold it. And that could be a sale online, it could be a sale in their store, it could be a combination, but the ability to track the inventory and to provide reporting and reports to the different users that need to see different things. Your buyer might be interested in certain aspects of your inventory, your accountant might have questions about certain things, and the system allows it to be entirely tracked. And that's what we put in place for Ski Cellar, just for the business ability for Ski Cellar. The second source of revenue is providing financing to small and mid-sized businesses using the inventory as the security for the financing. And that's when what we learned with Ski Cellar is that once you create this system for inventory tracking and inventory monitoring, you can now layer this extra important service of financing these small businesses, because a lot of these small businesses are either self-financed or they have to put up personal guarantees, and they might be relying on vendor terms from their suppliers, but the banks generally don't want to finance this type of business because the inventory in their mind is very, very hard to track and to trace and to monitor and to get the reports. So to be able to create a system where the owner of the business can have the valuable information, but also the lenders of the business can do that as well. That's kind of the combination we've created. So the long and the short of it is we get revenues from retailers using the system, and we get revenue from retailers borrowing from us. So that's the two sources of revenue. The business model is relatively simple. We provide a return to our investors. We take the money and put it into the local community through these retail establishments that are looking for financing, and we get the revenues to then pay the returns to the investor. The second related part is we create a community of customers for these different retailers. So as our investor base with Sportsman grows, so does the potential customer base for our small retail customers.
That's really interesting. And what I'm hearing from you is, the banks are looking for that inventory management information, and you've got it. So that's why you can be in that situation to provide that financing arm.
Well, and the challenge with banks, you really have two challenges. Is number one, inventory financing is very intensive, labor intensive, management intensive. You have to track all the stuff. So they're happy to do it for a Home Depot that has millions and millions and millions of dollars of inventory because the work justifies the size of the loan. But when you have a retailer that wants, say, $500,000 or $1 million, the amount of bank effort to monitor that kind of a loan is just, it's too much work for the bank for not enough return. And the second issue is a lot of the inventory management systems are designed for big companies, and they're really out of reach price-wise for the small to medium-sized business. So they can't really afford to get the programs and the computer systems in place that will allow a bank to finance them. And then if they can, the bank wants to lend them more money than they would be able to qualify for. So you have this void that we think there's an ability to service.
Yeah, it sounds like a complete mismatch and something that you're directly addressing. David, continuing on the financial theme, how does Sportsman Logistics ensure financial stability and attractive returns for its investors?
Well, the biggest way, because we can secure that inventory so well, we know any money we deploy is pretty safe. So we have visibility and control over the inventory with the client retailers. So as product is sold, we're bringing money back to Sportsman Logistics, repooling it, and then redistributing that to a new client to buy inventory for them. So we're never really putting money at risk beyond it sitting on the floor of a shop for a little while. And worst case, if we have inventory that's not moving quick enough, we have mechanisms where we can actually sell that inventory out and recover our money and keep going with the next project. So it becomes a little bit like a bank where every dollar deployed is secured, but not like a bank that it's not really expensive and not really heavy processes. We have all the tools to track it ourselves, so it becomes a fairly stable way of doing things. And the more often we can purchase inventory for a client and get it out there on the floor and sell it and do it again, the faster we can generate really good returns for our investors. Right? So we'll make a little bit of money every time a product is sold through our system, and the more times we sell them, the more money we make for our investors, and it should be easy to generate the returns that we're promising them. So
great. Neil, can you elaborate on the current offering in the crowdfunding campaign and what the raised funds will be used for? And additionally, I was going to sneak an extra question there. What are the future plans for expansion and growth?
Well, that sounds like about 3 questions, but let me take a stab.
You can share them with David if you want.
The future growth is to take what we've built and to add more and more retail customers. So the more retail customers we have using our system and using us for financing, the company can grow. We intend to focus currently on the local market, so ideally retailers in Alberta and ideally retailers that are sports based, because that's where our retail experience is. But it can really apply to any retailer that has inventory as a significant asset and that has inventory that's doesn't have a best before date or an expiry date. We don't want to start financing bananas on the shelf that start out nice and green but go very brown. We want to keep to stable inventories. In terms of growth, once we add more retailers, we can expand geographically. We can go to other provinces. We can go to other industries, because as a cloud-based system, you're really not bound by any significant geographic restrictions. In terms of the what we're raising the money for, obviously a key component of the revenue for Sportsman is the financing of retail stores. And in order to finance retail stores, you need the money to provide them the capital they're asking for. So most of the money that we're raising is to allow us to provide the financing component of the business. I mean, there are costs and marketing costs and those things associated with any company, but the bulk of the funds is to go into financing the local businesses that hopefully the investors are wanting to support.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that no technology really needs to be developed. So there's not lots of development costs. There's not lots of management costs that's going to consume that money. That money that's being raised through this offering is really going to go directly into the inventory procurement by and large, making it pretty safe and pretty easy to generate that return. We don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend. Right? That's already been done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you have to remember, to Dave's point, we spent over 4 years in Ski Cellar developing this system. This wasn't an idea that we are thinking we need to develop. This is something that we actually developed and fleshed out and thoroughly tested in an active retail operation. And now we're just saying we think we can take this to the next level and help finance and support other retailers.
Mm-hmm. And your focus is very much niche to start with, but with the opportunity to expand so you can grow your market.
That's correct. That's correct.
Well, with the first closing of the crowdfunding campaign approaching, could you tell us why it's beneficial for investors to come in before the deadline?
Well, obviously, the sooner you are an investor, the sooner you start receiving dividends. And this isn't an investment, like in an oil and gas operation where you're going to drill a well and hope you have a gusher and make a whole bunch of money, but run the risk that what happens if you drill a hole and there's nothing there. This is a stable, secure, recurring revenue stream. So obviously, the sooner you get in, the sooner you're able to participate in that revenue stream. And we've designed it as dividends so that it's taxed, certainly taxed better than passive income would be. I'm not sure now if it's taxed as well as capital dividends are or not, because the tax on capital dividends is obviously changing in the most recent budget.
That dividend from the most recent budget, luckily, so we're all happy about that.
Yeah, and dividends still remain generally speaking favorably taxed to investors. But the sooner an investor gets in, the sooner the money can be advanced and the support to the small businesses can occur and the revenue can be generated for the company.
Excellent. And I believe there's for investors, there's up to 20% discount on items from Ski Cellar snowboard as well.
Yeah, what the business model with the equity crowdfunding business model, what we wanted to do is make sure we were providing not only a social return to investors. I mean, we want people to invest in the local economy and to invest in the small businesses that are the businesses that are sponsoring their kids' soccer teams and their kids' hockey teams and their kids' dance recitals and all the stuff that local businesses do. So there's a feel-good component. The economic component for sure is the dividend, because you invest money and the return you get is a dividend. But recognizing that a lot of the investors will most likely be customers of the small businesses we're supporting. Every time we sign on a new retailer to be a customer, they provide a product incentive to our investor database. So as we grow the list of retail customers for Sportsman, we are able to add more and more benefits to the investors because they now get to participate with these people. And the retailers will love it because they're getting access to a group of of investors, or sorry, a group of customers that they may not have had. When a bike shop signs up, people that invested in Sportsman because of their connection with Ski Cellar will now also have a connection with the bike company, and the bike company didn't know these people before. So it is a marketing incentive for the retailers as well. So that's really the business concept.
Excellent. Well, I think we've answered all the questions that we got today. So I would like to say thank you to you both, Neil and David, for sharing these insights. And thank you to everyone who's listening in, but in supporting local businesses and strengthening the community here in Alberta and then growing across Canada. For more information or to make an investment, please visit the crowdfunding page on Equivesto. That's their exempt market dealer. That's EQUIVESTO.com. And we look forward to having you join the investor community. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.